Welcome to Fundraising is Funny. I'm Lynn Wester.
And I'm Clay Buck.
Join us to share in laughter and stories as we take a lighthearted look at the profession that we love so much, fundraising.
Because sometimes we just have to laugh at ourselves.
Laughter through tears is my favorite emotion. Take a moment, take a listen. Hey, this could even be called self-care.
Bring your favorite beverage and a yummy snack.
In reality, we're here to deliver on our promise. We're going to make you laugh or cringe. And if you learn something too, bonus.
See, we're serious fundraisers. We believe in this work, but we also know we do some really ridiculous things all in the name of raising a dollar. Maybe if we laugh at and with them and at ourselves, we can bring a little joy to everybody in our sector.
Now, don't worry. In that pursuit of joy, we won't name names, but the stories we share are 100% real life in the world of nonprofit fundraising.
Because, come on, fundraising is funny. What?
What? I gave you a little side eye. I'm sorry. Hi, everybody.
It's like you're anticipating the story that is coming.
Well,
because I have a story for you.
Oh, that's a new idea and concept.
Right?
We're going to start our podcast with a story.
What? Shocking.
You're going to tell me later there's going to be snacks?
Shocking. I am that we might even take a break for.
Whoa.
So once upon a time.
Ooh, land far, far?
In the land of nonprofithood.
Well, that's a hood.
So actually, before I tell the story, let me ask you a question. If I say volunteer, what do you think of? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Alumni board member.
Oh.
I think of trustees. I think of people who make phone calls to ask for money.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of those areas where you and I both have extensive but different experience.
See.
So I tend to, when someone says volunteer, I tend to think of the person that wants to come and do something really good, right?
Oh, I've done that too.
They want to give their time and come do a fun thing.
You mean not just people who want to give their opinions and not their money?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's like the definition of alumni board service in my world.
Right.
But it says an alumni board.
So
tell me your story.
Whether somebody's volunteering for a day of service or to provide governance, like volunteers volunteer. Okay.
And we also know that volunteerism and giving is innately tied together, don't we?
And we do. We absolutely do.
Yeah.
Right. And they're tied. Right. Exactly. And time is as important.
Volunteers
money, time,
equals
talent,
good.
Treasures. Volunteers equals good.
Got it.
And I also, even after 30 plus years of doing this, I'm a little Pollyanna. I still believe in the good of people and intent and all of that. I know. I'm only bitter and jaded with you when the microphone is off.
Well, it happens. Right.
Mostly. Right. But people want to do good things. So, right. There's a number of organizations, God love them, good intent, but they want to do days of service.
Tell me that story about a day of service.
I am. And they, get their employees, get communities together, volunteering. So once upon a time, there was this storage closet.
Literally
a storage closet, big, huge storage closet that had all the things, like all the leftover silent auction stuff and all the things
tablecloths,
all the things that got pulled out for events every time they were at events. There were old files in there, nothing serious or confidential, but just old files of stuff like event files, things like
checks
that.
They hadn't deposited.
Everybody's got either this, that drawer in your house that you pull open.
It's a junk drawer.
Yeah, it's that storage closet, right? Mm-hmm. Stuff we need or might need.
Well, the hall closet.
See, the trouble was this organization worked with a very sensitive population.
Okay.
Which people cared a lot about and do care a lot about. And they wanted to volunteer to do something for this population. But in order to actually work with this population, there's a whole series of background checks and security.
Rigmarole.
Right. Well, not rigmarole.
I mean,
laws, security, right? Privacy, like all those kinds of things. So in order to volunteer to serve that population, you had to have background checks, you had to have whole things. Anyway.
So you're saying that if I volunteered, more than likely I wasn't dealing with the actual beneficiary.
Precisely. But people wanted to volunteer because they wanted to do good for goods.
Yep.
Well, but they didn't have a lot of things. I mean, other than, actually working with the population. There wasn't
Please don't tell me. I think I know where you're headed.
About every 6 months.
No, sir.
Every 6 months, they'd get this slew of volunteers. And let's just put it this way. That was the cleanest, most organized dang supply closet you have ever seen in your life.
I'd do it once and then I'd be like, you mess up my system, I'm not coming back.
But that was the only way they could engage volunteers. So there was this whole like point of, well, we want to engage the volunteers and we want to channel this good somewhere, but there's really nothing else they can do. So I've also heard the story of the wall that got painted every 6 months.
Oh no!
Right,
it just had big, thick coats of paint.
It must have, because we got volunteers. We need to do something with them. So let's paint that wall again.
Oh no!
Right? Which could be fun if you do a whole lot of brand changes. Like every time you change your brand, you have volunteers come in and paint the wall. But anyway,
I have heard of a really cool thing.
Yeah.
At a YMCA, speaking of a painted wall, and that was every semester or year they had their little dance class in one of their buildings at the Y, and every member of the dance class was asked to contribute to the YMCA, and the little girls and boys got to put their handprints on the wall and paint.
Oh, that's cool.
And they also included people who were not financially able to do that. So it was the best darn donor wall I've ever seen. And I'm not a fan of donor walls because it was all these little handprints. Yeah. And they were inclusive and didn't just include people who could afford it. So there's a little volunteer effort I like, right?
That's wonderful.
But so what you're saying is that so let me tell you a story of the opposite effect.
Okay.
So I had the pleasure of working with
I'm going to say no to you telling me the story.
I mean, it is the point of the podcast.
On a podcast,
but I had the pleasure of working with the Moisha House in Charlotte, and I donated some of my time to help them with their fundraising. And in honor of me helping them, they said, we would love to do a day of service in your honor. At the time, I had Pandora, my little puggy, and they knew how much I loved my puggy. And so they said, we'd like to spend half a day at the Humane Society as a team in your honor. We'd love for you to come, and then we'll go out to lunch and celebrate our volunteerism and you, and just really nice. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Like, what a great way to thank somebody also. Well, we showed up at the Humane Society and Miss Jennifer was there.
Yes.
And we were escorted into their conference room. Miss Jennifer had clipboards with waivers. She had a list of the day's activities.
Oh.
She had such a wonderfully structured volunteer program.
Got it together.
Oh, snaps, Jennifer. And she said, now I know all you guys want to do is play with the animals. And we're like, yeah.
And that's what we're here for.
And she's like, no. You have to earn your playtime. Just like a kid, you got to do your homework first. So she said, we have 4 duties that you can do in order to earn your playtime with the dogs or cats you're choosing. You can clean out all the dog bowls from the food and do dishes. You can do the laundry with the blankets that we use for the young babies. You can organize the cat toys, and unlike your closet, they actually needed organizing and cleaning out old ones and things like that. And you can stuff Kongs with wet dog food and put them in the freezer.
Oh, sweet. Nice. And
I was like, all right. And she goes, and you're going to do an hour in each station, and then you get 30 minutes of dog and kitty time. And I was like, oh,
sweet.
So it's a 2-for-1 ratio of the work I do.
But let me just clarify. So you went into this situation and you were given both expectations and outcomes. If you do this thing, then this will happen, with boundaries. And
we got to rotate turns, right? I was like, I'm going to fill some Kongs and I'm going to do some dishes.
How much time did you spend sitting around waiting for instructions?
None. She was ready for us. She had a clipboard. I'm telling you.
You didn't come in and sit for an hour and wait while they kind of ran through and went, sorry, we forgot you were coming today.
No, it was wonderful. And so here's the other thing. As I'm doing the work, so I picked stuffing Kongs and organizing cat toys. I split between the animals, but I really just wanted to play with puppies. Let's be honest. So I went into the kitchen to stuff the Kongs, and I saw all the shelves of food, and they had tons of kibble, dry food.
Right.
But there were 3 cans of Alpo sitting on the shelf. And I was like, oh. And I said, do you have more wet food? Because I'm a good stuffer of the Kongs. And she goes, oh, we're running low. We get the kibble donated, but nobody donates wet food. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So I was like, there's a need. So I did my job. I stuffed my Kongs, and then I went to organize the cat toys. And she's like, here are the different types of cat toys. But in all honesty, the cats really just like ping pong balls And, we get all kinds of other stuff. And so I'm organizing and labeling, and I'm in my happy zone. And like, there's like 2 ping pong balls. And I'm like, but if that's their favorite, but other people are donating feathers and weird little stuffed mice that some lady crocheted. And, and I'm like, oh, so they need some ping pong balls. So at the end of our time, and I got to play with the dogs and walk some dogs. And at the end of our time, she had us all come back together and talk about our half day and what we learned. And she thanked us for our time. And I was just really valued and honored by her. And so I went home that day and thought, well, what can I do to give back? So I went on Amazon and I set up a case of wet dog food to be delivered every month and a gross of ping pong balls. That's 144. But thanks to the popularity of beer pong, they're very cheap. I didn't even have to buy red Solo cups, And so I put them on auto delivery. And Miss Jennifer got the first delivery, and she called me crying.
Oh.
And she said, I knew it was you. I hadn't put my name on anything. And she said, I just want to thank you. You saw that we had a need. And I said, well, it's on auto delivery. So you can refuse it at any time. That was 7 years ago, and they're still on auto delivery.
I love that. I think where we're heading with this is, how do we honor and recognize and value volunteers in our sector, from governance all the way to ping pong Kong stuffers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best ways that you can honor, respect a volunteer, because every army marches on its stomach, is with snacks.
Oh, that's she did not provide snacks, and that was okay because we went out to lunch after. But so you're saying we need a snack break?
I'm saying we need a snack break.
We'll be right back, folks, after snacks.
And ping pong.
And it won't be Alpo.
So, quick snack story and volunteers. Coming back from snack break here.
Did you have a stuffed Kong?
I did not have a stuffed Kong. This is a quick story. This is one of my favorite stories, though, because one year we had a whole bunch of gratitude letters to send out in year end. And so we recruited a bunch of volunteers. God bless them.